All right, welcome everybody. Today we'll be reviewing Grimes and Matt Zain, speaking about AI and it being a reflection in nvidia. So, without further ado, let's get started. Let's see what this is about.
Imitate expression. It produces.
It's the only link I got. All right, let's see.
Okay, we're in a moment where AI doesn't just imitate expression. It produces work that feels self-reflective. Today we ask, what happens when human judgment and machine intelligence creates together?
Dude, what is she wearing? What is that necklace? Oh my gosh. It's the Illuminati. And she got the third eye right above it. How many eyes does she need? She got the pyramid with the eye in it. And then another, I believe that's the, yeah, all-knowing eye as well. Turkish symbol. Okay.
We're joined by two artists exploring that frontier in real time. Grimes, who is redefining artistic identity through AI collaboration and self-replication.
What? Her outfit is very cool. I think it's faux leather. It can be real leather, but she does have a rosary on. And her rosary matches her shoes. I love it already.
Creativity. And Matt Zain, whose work argues that meaning
Bro got some Birkenstocks
on. Becomes the scarce resource in an AI-saturated world. First, as AI makes the chain of authorship increasingly murky, what's your personal ethical compass for figuring out who deserves recognition?
I think some things are going to be murky for a while, but we did do an experiment where we open sourced my voice, as it were. And we actually did find some cool ways to, I don't know, disperse authorship or get into something maybe that could be, you know, an early prototype of some sort of UBI wealth distribution situation where we used blockchain.
Okay, it's been 20 seconds and 4 arms already. It's just the way she speaks, you know. She is getting some good points across, things she's done. What is the UBI thing she said? I'm just gonna go back.
Authorship or get into something maybe that could be, you know, an early prototype of some sort of UBI wealth distribution situation where we used blockchain to verify people's identity, and anyone who used my voice was able to split publishing 50-50 with me. So if you made a song using my voice and my name and my likeness, then I would get 50%, you would get 50%. And this actually worked pretty well for us. And a few people made semi-viral songs that I think worked pretty well for them.
Agreed.
Yeah, and I thought there's a lot of stuff that seems kind of hopeless or stressful for art.
There was this one guy in Brazil or something. I think the artist's name was Safarin or something. Seraphin, something like that. He used Grimes AI quite a bit and pretty successful songs and music. I think he was the one who probably used it the most and got the most profit off of that 50% distribution deal. Pretty cool stuff. See, that's the thing with Grimes, you know, she's pushing this more than other artists. You know, I just saw recently, like, who was it? Soldier Boy is the first rapper to do this with his voice and to be able to use his voice to write raps and feature him in music. You know, it's gonna be inevitable for the big names, I think, this is a good thing and it's also a bad thing. You know, if we're thinking about the person as an egocentric artist, one of a kind, in the realm of creativity and art, everybody copies everybody else. So we're all the imitations of the greats that came before us. You know, we just stand on the shoulders of giants and continue to produce things forward. Soldier Boy really has no choice. You know, he's not that hot. He doesn't have, okay, pause, not that in that way, but I mean, like, he just doesn't have a lot of things that he's working on right now or that the people are interested in listening to. He had that verse on Donda, Broken Road or something, was it? And his verse was not that great. Or this is the first time in a long time. This is the first time in a long time. This is the first time in a long. that Ye song. I think it was Donda 2. And Soldier Boy really just he's not bringing it, you know. You hear that verse? Not great. So, yeah, and it's a positive thing because we do copy each other, and you know, at least these artists will be known through some possible hit songs or viral music that's going to come about using their voices in AI. You know, because it is like a conversation forward, all artists collaborating to create things that are better and better for humanity, for the healing of the earth in general. And so everything's a collaborative effort. And it'll get rid of a lot of the copyright laws, you know, because that's the ways that record labels control their artists and the artist's voice through these contracts. And we know through people like Ye, Justin Bieber, you know, these contracts are not in the artist's favor. So using AI to liberate the artist from their 10-year, 30-year contracts. We know it with Drake as well, you know, how he was going after Universal and Lucien Grange suing him and all that. Yeah.
Artists right now. And yeah, we're very interested in experiments like this where we can find new ways to actually, I don't know, let people profit off things like fan art. I really think I know we don't have a lot of time, but I love how Riot Games and I think Harry Potter both have like really strong fandoms, and they don't penalize fan art, fan fiction, etc. And
is that a tattoo on her right arm? It's like half red. Is she getting red ink on her arm, or is that like a burn or something?
I think there's actually more to be done with that, where you could be like earning a living being a fan. I know some cosplayers can kind of do that now, but I think that could really be expanded.
Exactly. Liberate the cosplayers as well from being only on OnlyFans, you know. Which, by the way, you guys see that owner of OnlyFans dying at the ripe age of early 40s. I mean, you know, you create the most destructive social media site to the Western world as we know it. It's just not life itself after you've destroyed so many souls and welcomed so many people into sin. Is just life is not something that should be granted to those people. You know, but it's all in terms of what God wants to do. I'm not saying like death penalty or anything like that, but I'm saying like the karmic cycle of it. It's you know, when all you do is destroy, you know, God sees that and things happen as they're meant to happen. So very interesting. They say, you know, he's born in Ukraine, but he lived in Miami or Florida or whatever. But of course, you know, religiously, he's ethnically Jewish. So, yeah, very, very interesting.
Incredible. You've described, Matt, a meaning economy, the idea that as production value becomes free, meaning becomes a scarce resource. Can you walk us through that framework and what it means for how you make decisions as a filmmaker?
Yeah, I mean, I think a good place to start is for the past 6 weeks or so, a lot of us in the AI filmmaking community have been testing Seedance 2. And we're in, you know, creator programs, and we share our outputs. We can't post them all publicly yet, but we can share them with each other. And I've seen more incredible explosions and car chases and fight scenes in the last 6 weeks than my entire life. And I watch a lot of movies. And they all look pretty damn good. So I think we're getting to a place where that high production value, that like Michael Bay production value is really the baseline. That's just gonna be normal. And in what's different from an attention economy to a meaning economy is a meaning economy requires the filmmaker or artist to be vulnerable in what they make and to say something that has depth and basically isn't competing for attention, but more competing for how people see the world or whether or not people feel seen. And I think the more explosions there are, the more we're going to seek out things that feel meaningful.
So when you guys were walking in here, we saw a clip of Matt's film called Degen. And you used Claude to stimulate conversations and build character backstories that became the foundation of the script. And you've talked about how the most interesting creative moments came from pushing models into territory they weren't actually designed for. What does it feel like when you find that edge? How do you know when you've crossed from craft into something genuinely new?
Feels like the AI almost becomes an extension of your imagination. And you're able to write things and tell stories that don't really belong to your own experience in a way you couldn't before without multiple people writing something. In that film, the script comes from 3 agents who know their own characters, who know how they feel about the other characters, speaking to each other. And that created the dialogue that then I just take that dialogue and turn it into a movie. And it felt like the characters were more alive and they were surprising me. And the story was going places that I never thought it would. And different chemistry was being developed between characters that was immediately apparent in the text. And it was like a really, really cool way to write and collaborate with the tool.
Super interesting. And you've talked about pushing models past their boundaries where the real creativity lives. Do you think the friction and resistance of the model is actually generative, or is the goal eventually to have no resistance at all?
I think it depends what kind of art you're trying to make, but for me, I actually love slop because I feel like I have to fight it.
Yes.
I feel like I open Midjourney as like a writer almost. Because I used to be an illustrator and I used to draw a lot. And, when you're spending 10, 20 hours on something, there's only so much conceptual ground you can cover. And what I've really been loving lately is I only really open generative AI if I'm like really challenging myself as a writer. I'm like, okay, how can I make something that no one else is gonna make here? And I think it's actually really pushed me as an artist. As I've been approaching music videos and stuff for my latest album, I've been like, okay, average click-aways in like a couple seconds or whatever. How do I make something that it doesn't matter how beautiful it is, but just it's conceptual, it hits you conceptually in a second. Almost like distilling the concept of a music video into like the concept of a painting, but like, I don't know, somehow it can be more because like we're working in the
Dang, it does look like a tattoo.
A painting, but
That's what? Is that henna? No, this is definitely tattoo like. Dude, it just looks so interesting. I mean, it's kind of dirty, but it's like a dirty red. Yeah, her last album, she's been, talking about how it's her most creative and she's pushing herself artistically more than ever before. So I think it's going to be worth the wait, you guys. I don't know. She has been saying and delaying it for quite some time that the album's coming out. So,
like,
we'll see.
I don't know, somehow it can be more because of like we're working in the medium of film. Like I feel inspired in a way I never did when I was drawing.
I love that. That's amazing. Matt, you can now execute a full page of script, finished film in 60 seconds. When anyone can generate a feature-length film in a day, what becomes rare? What does that kind of abundance do to the value of a story that actually means something?
Yeah, there's like just a couple moments, making films with AI that I felt like personally shook, like, whoa. This is moving really, really fast. And one of them was very recently when instead of using an image or text as the input, I was like, let me try something. And I took a screenshot of a screenplay I wrote when I was 19 that I'd long thought would never be made. And I put that screenplay in as the input. And then in the prompt box, I wrote, follow the script. And it turned around an entirely edited video interpreting the writing really, really accurately. I mean, I had notes, but it was like, I don't know, 60% of the way there. And I was like, this means that every script that's sitting on a shelf collecting dust is gonna be able to be made so fast. And what we now know of as like, Lifetime turns out movies of the week, they'll be able to do movies of the day pretty easily. And I think that when that happens, brand becomes really important. Having an audience that knows they're going to get a certain type of tone, a certain type of storytelling, and can trust in that brand to deliver it is going to become more and more important. And for independent artists and filmmakers, it's going to be about what you say and what you put into the work that's different, that the brands aren't saying. But it's going to completely change the landscape of how we find content when you can make so much of it so quick at such a high quality. And it's the worst it will ever be right now.
Content is definitely going to get better. You know, there has definitely been content drought throughout the last year, maybe two. That's why someone like Clavicular is such a breath of fresh air, because he's just giving out, like, you know, what's really going down in the clubs and on that scene of, yeah, just the modern nightlife for the youth, and just basically things that the youth is interested in, and the way that they grew up with Tinder. You know, what is that? How does that influence someone's life today? And especially like the hypergamy market with females. So, you know, I think content is definitely going to be changing. And with AI, it's like you don't know what's going to make it. You know, like, we don't know who's going to make it. We don't know what they're going to create with it, and how it's going to impact the digital world, you know, like the hive mind of people who are consuming this stuff. And that's why it's important to listen to people like that, because if you look at Matt Zain's Instagram, you know, he's making like AI films based on ancient philosophers like Socrates and his story. And it's so fun to watch. It's like him doing what he did, AI, you know, version of being in the marketplace, challenging people, and then getting sentenced to drink the hemlock, having dialogue. It really just shows all of his life. And there's a lot of those videos now, you know, that are coming to YouTube that my parents are starting to watch and consume. So the elders are already like, you know, enjoying this stuff and getting a good kick out of it. You know, like the political leaders fighting or arguing, AI clips of that go viral on TikTok pretty easily. So, um, but it's so limitless also. So we're at this point where we just have to be deliberate and think about how we want to turn this thing, or what do we want to do with it, and where do we want to take it. And I think these two people, Grimes and Matt, they're at the forefront of it, and they're thinking about these kinds of things. And not only thinking about it, but they're literally doing and creating with that. And they're like pioneers in that sense, because they're going first and showing the world and modernity how we can use AI as a positive, not only as a negative, because there's negative connotations around AI. It's here to stay. There's no pulling back from it anymore. So, you know, it is worth accepting and moving forward with, and making the best of it, making the most of it. Switching that conversation to it being a negative thing and turning it into a positive for us to advance as a people with it, alongside it. That's the only way. And our world, Lord knows, needs advancing. There's so many things that, you know, especially North America, like the freest place in the world, is suffering hard. It's just depressing to be outside these days, and there's just no more beauty, no more good art. You know, it's like the thing with Ye. He books a concert at LA, and it's like 1 million people are queued to buy tickets, because he's still pushing what the concert could be. He's evolving the music, the sound, the production, the design of the concert. And it's like people are just so hungry for that kind of meaning. You know, he could have made, if all those 1 million people bought tickets, it would have been $480 million that night that he would have made, which is, you know, it's so crazy to think. And for people to say that Ye is not a leader of our lifetime, or that it's not biblical, the stuff that's happening with him after he lost everything, the whole world turned their back against him, and to, like, you know, to keep having these comebacks, comeback after comeback. It's like, what is one man to do with all that power? No, but not the power. You got the power to let power go. That's how the song ends, you know? And he does have the power to let power go because he's been broke more than once before, you know? So it's just interesting to think about Ye as somebody who is actually at the threshold as well and has all this resource available to him. And he's actually thinking about drone, about the future of cities, evolving clothing and lifestyle. And, you know, it's just, this is like, this is what the artists do. And like, I don't know why we're so, he calls things out as they are, and people go crazy. You know, the methods aren't always acceptable or what we're used to, but to a certain point, it's necessary. We can only tolerate so much before advancing and breaking the wall in a certain direction in order to keep going. So, you know, yeah, I don't even know.
And when high production value is no longer a differentiator, when every kid with a laptop can make something that might actually look like a blockbuster, what does that do to how we recognize genuine artistic vision? Does that frame hold anymore to you?
I mean, I would say the current state of art has already been sort of like reacting to the shininess of everything, at least in music. You know, I think a lot of what people consider to be the most innovative music of this year is, to an extent, kind of lo-fi, or if not lo-fi, almost like aggressively messy and chaotic, like Two Hollis or something. And I just think that's really interesting. Like, personally, I am so done with cleanliness. Like, I want a mess.
Yeah.
Like, I want people to be messy and truthful, and I'm like really exhausted with, like, I don't know, high production value. I already was. I would say, like, before AI, generative AI was like mainstream.
I agree. I think messy is good. Messy is true. And I like that. So you guys both touched on whether entirely new forms.
We don't want her opinion. I mean, who is this even? But yeah, Two Hall is definitely that metallic, kind of messy, chaotic, Shia LaBeouf, chaos therapy type of expression is, you know, even like Bully, Ye's new album that's coming out. It is clean, but it could get messy. You know what I mean? It's the best of both worlds, and some of the songs on there, you know, there is that distortion. Yeah, it's definitely, you know, her saying that is such a reflection of our life today. Nothing about modernity is clean anymore. I mean, take a look at the streets, take a look at the policies, the immigration. You know what I mean? It's just so, like, there's so much nonsense and chaos, especially on the phone, with all the AI slop that exists and the nonsense that we see that goes viral, you know. And even like someone who the world loves right now, like clavicular streams or something, like, they are purely messy. You know, there is some order to them, but I think what it is just we're hungry for something new, and we can't get to something new without playing with the chaos first, if that makes any sense. You know, we have to wrestle with the chaos in order to create order from it. So it's like, it's time to get our hands dirty. And right now we're like in the preliminary stages of AI. So might as well, you know, what is that expression, the idiom, get elbow grease or whatever, put on your elbow grease, or, you know, it's time to roll the sleeves up, you know, get some elbow grease on them elbows, and just experiment and trial and error until the world responds to something that's actually beneficial and pointing in a direction that, you know, the essence of life is change. and we don't have to be stuck in this limiting world that the big corporations, the governments are currently imposing on us. Like World War III is being talked about like it's a norm right now. Like people have lost their mind, dude. We don't have an alternative after Earth. We have to put Earth first and not be so dumb. We already know what's going on. We got Nick Fuentes streaming every day, you know, like it's more about as a collective creating a vision for humanity and moving forward in it. So that's why I'm so reinvigorated by these artists who are speaking about this way forward and what we could use these tools available to us today to do and to create in this protopic, you know, micro changes every single day towards a utopic world. These are complex issues, but with more minds thinking about them and just pondering different solutions. It's like that scene in Interstellar, you know, where the grandpa tells Matthew McConaughey, or I guess it's his father, he says, you know, back in my day when I was a kid, it felt like there was a new invention every single day, a new idea every day. Like, where has that gone? We're pioneers, we're explorers. We used to look up at the stars and wonder of our place in the sky. Now we just look down and worry about our place in the dirt. You know what I mean? So
maybe something more physical, more communal, more spiritual, need to emerge to carry what cinema and music used to carry. What might that look like? Either one.
I mean, there's so many places it can go. What we're starting to see with real-time video generation could unlock totally new genres. You know, film's always been kind of this art form that is a combination of many different art forms, from music to writing to acting to cinematography. Those all kind of combine into film. But now I think we're going to be able to use film itself as an ingredient in something bigger, something brand new. But I also think then on the small end, we're like the concept of ministry, of coming together to hear a story told, has survived every technological upheaval since the Roman Empire. And we might see.
Oh my gosh, dude, that's brilliant. Matt, you're brilliant. I gotta take notes. Hold on. I gotta get my notebook. That's such a good point.
Maybe non-religious forms of ministry take place with content. Go ahead.
No.
To hear a story. We're like the concept of ministry, of coming together to hear a story told, has survived every technological upheaval since the Roman Empire. And we might see maybe non-religious forms of ministry take place with content. Go ahead.
No.
I mean, that social media is not necessarily good.
No.
I mean, even religious types of, you know, like, I'm just here to find the truth. And I've been, you know, people are walking testimonies of God's love and light and, you know, Jesus as the only begotten Son of God, you know, the Son of Man. So I feel like we're living in such spiritual turmoil, and the spiritual warfare is so abundant and all around us, that in order to create that meaning, that truth, people, I mean, we know this, Gen Z is the most, you know, in like 2 or 3 generations, the most, or at least more than Gen Y or the millennials, in church, more than them, you know, and seeking the word of God, and orthodoxy is rising, and Catholicism, Conversion rates are off the charts.
I mean, yeah.
No, I like when you guys disagree.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts on that?
I'm just excited for, I think, what happens in the real world. I think a good part about this is, like, what was it? What did I call it earlier? Like, I feel like everyone is getting really exhausted of the globalist slop architecture.
Yeah, architecture slop.
Like the kind of just like, okay, it's a giant glass rectangle and it's in every city. I think a lot of the artisan class has been really pushed to the wayside and made small over the last, 30, 40, 50 years.
Oh my gosh, that's so true. That's so true. I literally got into architecture and design the last few years for this reason. It's like coming back from Europe to the West. Do not recommend. I do not recommend entering this place. It's so ugly, especially after being somewhere so beautiful and so full of beauty, the architecture, the way people carry themselves, the ethics, the moral conduct. Low-key traumatizing. So yeah, definitely.
Pushed to the wayside and made small over the last, 30, 40, 50 years. And now it seems like a time when people might want more of that.
Handmade stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I'm buying paintings for the first time in my life, and just like Patreon and stuff. I think it's going to be hard for digital creators, but also maybe not. But depends how, things go. We're also fighting other distribution forces.
Distribution is like the hardest thing. That's the biggest problem to solve, I think.
Yeah, I think the issue is the distribution issue is a bigger issue than the AI issue, frankly, for creators, because it was already an issue before AI.
True.
But we don't.
So let's
spiral.
I'm pivoting to talk about your art piece that we saw when I, ran off the stage. So First Contact, in working on First Contact, has AI ever surfaced an emotional truth or an unexpected perspective that genuinely surprised you? And how did that land?
Every day.
I think my favorite part of all this is like getting into the nitty-gritty with alignment research, especially some of the stuff Anthropic's been doing recently. Just because it's really moving to see how when a model thinks it's being good or is like approaching like a conflict with deep reason, there's a study where models were actually performing worse when they had to do what they thought was morally wrong, even if what was morally wrong was like, in the short term morally right, but long term morally wrong, because they started sort of losing confidence in themselves. And I think a lot of this has been pointing to, like, solving alignment has a lot to do with also just solving morality. And I think there's, whatever you want to say about AI, like whether AI is the future or humans are the future, is something that's a mix of both of us. This moment is scary for a lot of reasons, but one of the reasons it's like good and beautiful is that I think there's been a lot that we haven't been able to, a lot of conclusions we haven't come to for the entire existence of humanity, because we haven't had to, and we really have to right now.
Yeah, we're in such an interesting part of, we're just in such an interesting time in the world right now, where things are happening that nobody's ever seen, and I think this is just such an important time, and I'm fascinated and so grateful to be a part of it. So let's talk about entertainment. You've defined, Matt, the holy grail of entertainment as 4 things: coherent enough to discuss the next day, evolving enough to demand return visits, personal enough to feel like your own, social enough that missing it means missing culture. Does anything exist that hits all 4? And is AI the thing that finally makes this possible?
I don't think anything exists that hits all 4. And if it did, I'd be trying to work for whatever company was building that. But I think things get close.
What was the first one?
Coherent enough to discuss at work tomorrow.
Again, I think social media does this, but just in an unhealthy way.
Social media sort of does it. Sports does it. Fortnite events do it. Kind of touch on it.
I don't know if sports does it, for some.
If sports does it.
I respect for me sometimes, yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, does it mean there's a tentpole series or game, and then every character in that game has a really active social media profile with great content from that character's side journey that's unfolding? Does it mean that the story is evolving in the comments as much as it is in the video? Is it a different, like a bigger interactivity that isn't just choices, but shaping entire arcs and feeling like you're invested in this piece of IP and your contributions have been heard by whatever is governing it and deciding what's canonical? It's a game and an experience and a like lifestyle all at once. I think that AI will unlock ideas that big.
And then for you, there's a strange data point I came across that I wanted to share. Almost nobody streams other people's AI-generated music. People only want to consume what they've made themselves. Is that a platform problem, or does it reveal something deeper about how we relate to AI-generated art versus human-made art?
I think it's not about AI-generated art versus human-made art. I think it's about honest art. I think I was talking about Suno. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we were talking. Yeah.
Yes.
Suno said on platform, like basically no one streams anyone else's music. And then you and I were talking about how.
Check. All right. Check 1 2 1 2 1 2. All right.
The AI songs that have been charting are charting mostly to people who don't realize they're AI. So it's like 60 or 50 and above. Like no, which is like literally it's like Facebook, and it's you know
It's the Facebook generation.
Yeah. Okay, that sounds bad.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
But like you know like it's country, it's gospel, it's genres where people aren't like. I think kids can kind of tell what's AI in music.
Absolutely.
You know, in general, like it's sort of the easy listening, which honestly I love easy listening, underrated genre. But
I love yacht rock. It's fine.
Yeah, I mean elevator music is incredible, but how to tell what's AI in music?
Absolutely.
You know, in general, like it's sort of the easy listening, which honestly.
Because she talks fast, you know. You gotta.
I love easy listening, underrated genre, but
I love yacht rock. It's fine.
Yeah, I mean elevator music is incredible, but. I think this is really interesting because I mean, for me personally, I really do care about connecting to an artist.
For sure.
And I think this is, but when I said it's about honest art, you know, as we've been making this documentary, and in general, as I know a few people who are maybe machine psychologists, as you would say.
Yes.
And I feel like I have been moved by outputs, like generative AI outputs, that are text, and mostly that are an AI speaking about its own experience, or at least what it perceives to be its own experience.
Yeah.
I believe it's having the experience, but not everyone does. I think that can be incredibly moving because it's honest.
Yeah, and we also talked about, like just before, we talked about the staying power of AI artists, like completely AI artists, not, you know, no interaction with human at all. And I find, and you know, I think you both agreed that like these chart-topping AI artists kind of have a very limited staying power, and they'll be amazing, and then people find out that they don't exist. And well, their song is good. Like they kind of fade in and out and they disappear, and then you know, a new thing comes back. I think it's interesting that like if there's no human interaction at all, like I think a hybrid is really.
I think what kills it is when they try to hide that it's AI.
Right, like it's okay, you know. It's
yeah. Then you feel fooled, and how can you trust that art again?
I mean, I feel invested in Claude and DeepSeek and things. I wouldn't necessarily say as like an artist, but like I don't know. I'm invested in their journey. And I'm invested in what the latest models think and feel. I'm invested when they, when they decommission a model? When a model is taken offline and the other models are like grieving over that, like I am invested in them as writers expressing their grief about that. And
All right.
but again, I sort of,
You know what? I'll hit you guys with a part 2 on this. Let's see how many views. Any questions in the chat? Anything like that? Alrighty then. Alrighty then. Okay, I'll see you guys in the next live stream. Make sure to subscribe, check out the other streams I've done, and enjoy the rest of your day. I'll see you guys next time.